What's up guys, JayzTwoCents here, and today is an exciting day. It's May 17th, around 6 a.m. my time apparently, and the NDA has lifted regarding NVIDIA's GTX 1080. I've got it right here in the nifty cool little box it comes in, but we've already done a video about what the Founders Edition card is, so you guys should already know now that this is the Founders Edition card, aka the reference card. There's a lot we could talk about today. There's a whole ecosystem that is being shipped with this card and a lot of changes that come with that architecture. We're gonna touch on that a little bit, but we're gonna focus on what everyone really wants to know, and that being FPS. And is it really the new king, as they advertised?
The new Z170 classified motherboard from EVGA features 8-phase PWM, 4-way SLI support, along with top-notch components to offer gamers and enthusiasts more of what they want. Badass motherboard with no compromises. Click the link below to learn more.
All right, so obviously there is a new cooler shroud. They got some custom angles and stuff. It is a vapor chamber in there. But as you can see, the overall main aesthetics look an awful lot like a reference card, but it's not.
It's the Founders card.
It has a backplate, so I'm super happy about that. Backplates make everybody happy, and it just looks better. Doesn't that look better than a plain PCB chilling there? I don't know, maybe you prefer the PCB, whatever. That is subjective. That's up to you to decide if you like the idea of a backplate or not. But anyway, a couple of specs here we want to run down real quick. It is a 16 nanometer FinFET architecture, which is Pascal. It's got 8 gigabytes of GDDR5X memory, which is a new architecture for the memory, so they can actually get above that 7 gigahertz kind of a cap they've been dealing with in the past with standard GDDR5. So it's now running an effective 10 gigahertz of memory. That's pretty fast, actually, considering it's still GDDR. That's actually pretty impressive. 2,560 CUDA cores on that Pascal architecture. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to CUDA core count, though, is between architecture, you can't directly relate the number of CUDA cores to meaning one's better than the other. For instance, the Titan X has over, 3,072 CUDA cores. That doesn't mean it's better than this one because that number is higher. You really can't compare the two. So I just want to put that out there. I saw a lot of comments on the internet going,
but it only has 2,560 CUDA cores. That doesn't make sense. That's less than the last one.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Just pointing that out. But 9 teraflops, actually 8.9, but I guess they round it up. 8.9 teraflops of compute power when overclocked, or at least to the boost clock. Now this is going to be featuring GPU Boost 3, which is something I actually don't have access to at the time of this review, but my card did go above the 1700, I think it's 1733, I'll annotate it if I'm wrong. But the base clock is 1607, it will boost over 1700 on its own. Mine actually pushed all the way up to about 1820 megahertz out of the box without touching a damn thing. Now there is a negative I want to talk about immediately before we get into the benchmarks, and that being we saw the demo that Jensen was showing with the 3D model walk around. It was using GPU for rendering that, 2114 megahertz and 67C. First of all, I can't overclock this because at the time of doing this video, the sliders are locked on Afterburner and Precision. The new builds aren't out yet to support this card because, again, GPU Boost 3.0 and all of that. As I said, I had no overclockability of this card, which is really disappointing, which only means I'm going to have to make another video about overclocking. You guys are going to be like, come on, fanboy, would you stop talking about 1080? I kind of don't have a choice. Overclocking is a main aspect of this card, and I couldn't even test it at the time of recording this. But anyway, we'll circle back and we'll check that out. So that means I am letting the GPU Boost do its own thing, and I didn't touch it. That's how I know it went over to over 1800 megahertz, about 1820-ish. And I think 1810, it bounces around. You know how GPU Boost works. So to make things fair, when I tested this compared to my 980 Ti, I also left this manual overclocking out of the equation and just let this thing boost up on its own. I want the architecture doing all of the thinking so that we can do direct comparisons. So that's my 980 Ti. And of course, we compared it to the Titan X because, you know, we've heard that 1080 is better than Titan X in terms of performance, 2 times better. Is that really true? Well, remember guys, that chart says VR. 2 times better in VR. And I'm not doing VR testing today, I'm doing DirectX testing, which obviously is not going to be 2 times better than the Titan X. Otherwise, they would have never sold it for $599 and $699. And then of course, not to leave out my Team Red fanboys, I have got my R9 Fury X right here. We've got to check this out because it is in the same price point So that's the setup here. GTX 1080 with factory boost against 980 Ti, against Titan X, against Fury X, and a gambit of benchmarks to see who is the new GPU king around the $600 range, minus Titan X. You know, that's kind of the black sheep. Literally, it's black. Let's go ahead and see who performed best right now.
Transition.
So there you go, guys. That is absolutely the undisputed king, at least of the games that I tested. I can't test every game on the freaking market. That would take forever. It would never end. This is outperforming GTX Titan X, 980 Ti, and Fury X by a lot in DirectX 11. Obviously, we'll talk about 12 in a second here, but DX11, it was absolutely besting every card on the market for single GPU solution anywhere. So it's definitely performing. One thing I want to note though is I did deal with thermal throttling. That 67C we saw on stage was not in DirectX performance, that was in GPU render. And so it's a kind of a little bit misleading to be like, it's only running 67C. Yeah, in that program, but not in games, because games put this thing all the way up to 83C, which is where the factory thermal throttling mark is. So unless you raise the power target and raise the temperature limit in GPU boost, you're not going to be able to see this thing's full potential. It will pull all the way back down to the base clock, which is what happened to me. So I had to start all over by putting this thing up to the 120% power limit, which is a 20% extra power draw, and then setting the fan to 80C so we didn't see those temperatures get up there. Then it stayed around the mid 70s and was a lot quieter, believe it or not, than the 980 Ti and the Titan X at 80%. Then these were at 50%. So this fan is quieter than those. In fact, these were very noticeable. Coconut Monkey was in the room going, wow, those fans are loud. But we didn't even hear these over the system fans, or this one over the system fan running at 80%. So it's definitely an improvement to the cooler design. That also means when the board partners come out with their cards and their custom coolers and overclocking enabled, which I didn't have at the time of this review, which I'll have to do later, we're going to see a benefit with this, with higher power limits and temperatures definitely kept in check. All right, let's go ahead and take a second here to talk about my R9 Fury X from AMD. This is the highest end GPU AMD currently makes that has a single GPU. This was touted as the Titan killer. Unfortunately, it fell short of that. But one of the things people always point out is AMD is better in DX12 when it comes to async. Now, there are some async improvements that have taken place with the Pascal architecture, and I wanted to go ahead and try and point that out by using the DX12 benchmark inside of Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, before you start throwing things at your screen going, Jay, you should have used Ashes of Singularity, Ashes of Singularity. I'm not very familiar with that benchmark yet, and I'm going to add it to the suite later. It's just there are a metric butt ton of settings in there that I don't quite understand how they all correlate yet, and rather than really put out a flawed benchmark result, I decided to go ahead and just use Rise of the Tomb Raider because it's actually pretty demanding, more demanding than I thought it would be. And let's go ahead and take a look at this guy versus those in DX12 because that's always been the question. So how exactly did these all compare? All right, listen, hold up. I know you're probably going, what the actual fuck just happened? Yeah. The Fury X fell on its face like it was trying to run with a cast on its leg, and I was really surprised by that. Enough to where I wiped the drivers, reinstalled them, I believe 16.5.2, whatever the latest driver is from Crimson. It came out on May 10th, literally just the other day, and saw that the performance on this was absolutely terrible. I had no idea what was going on, so I started checking out the performance logs and noticed something that even though this is overclocked, by the way, guys, this is overclocked to 1120 from 1050, 70 megahertz overclock against stock speeds or GPU boost on the NVIDIA cards. What I noticed was I was looking for some sort of throttling. Nope. 4 gigabytes of HBM1 completely just used up. It was completely pegged on a 1080p benchmark with SMAA turned on. Not 2x, not 4x, just SMAA, one time sample. And it just completely used up all that memory to where the memory in this graphics card actually held it back on that benchmark. Now guys, that's one benchmark. And I want to point out that it used up pretty much all 8 gigabytes on the 1080 and all 6 on the 980 Ti, and it used over 9 gigabytes on the Titan X. Remember, the Titan X has 12. So that benchmark is literally wanting to use every bit of memory available to it. So I'm going to be looking for some more DX12 benchmarks so I can get a better sampling of what's happening here. But it does look like the 4 gigabytes of HBM on the Fury X was holding back the entire architecture of this card, unfortunately. All right, so that just about concludes today's video. There's a lot of things we can talk about, and I'm going to talk about some other things that I'm excited about. One of the things that 1080 really brings with it is a whole new ecosystem. It's got some amazing advancements in VR. It's got virtual sound in there now, which is built into the Pascal architecture. It's even got surround multi-panel correction so that you're no longer dealing with the skewed sides and all of that. 1080 is an amazing card when it comes to performance, which really has me wondering, knowing what 980 Ti and Titan X did to the 980, considering 980 was like a really good jump over the 780 for being a small GPU, what the hell does big Pascal hold for us? Holy shit. All right, guys, time to get out of here. Thanks for watching today's video. I just kept it simple today. I wanted to show you the benchmarks. I wanted to show you the numbers. And if there's any other benchmarks you think I should be including in the future, let me know. Obviously, I can't include all of them. Games like CSGO, I really don't see the point in benchmarking. They're not that demanding. I mean, they are, but they're not that demanding. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think about GTX 1080. All the information is out there now. There's no more secrets. So sound off in the comments or sound off on Twitter, and make sure you guys let me know. Anyway, also subscribe to my second channel. I talk about cars and stuff up there. And then check out the affiliate links down below if you guys want to help support the channel. If not, that's perfectly fine. Your views are more supporting than you'll ever know. Time to get out of here, guys. As always, I will see you in the next video.